Here's the people. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody. Little tech issues from Hawaii, so we roll with the flow. Good
Hi,
morning,
Bridget.
everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the VO Dojo's Ask the Sensei. This is our monthly free Q&A call. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo, usually based in Burbank, California. I'm in Maui still. Here, we are joined each month by our home studio master, Dan Leonard, and an esteemed colleague of ours from the voiceover community, who today is one of our favorite friends of the dojo, Ezra Weisz. So we are here. We are excited you are here. I'm going to introduce Dan, have Dan introduce himself for a second. Ezra introduce himself for a second. If you haven't had a chance to take it in prior, Ezra and I did a little interview that we call the Dojo 21 Questions, that we went a little bit more in depth about Ezra and his insights and his experience. So if you're interested in learning more about Ezra, you can take in those 21 questions, and that allows us to take more of your questions on this call. So, but let's introduce the gang. Oh, and Jeffrey is here as a Dojo team. So if you need anything, he is here on drums. So, oh my gosh, so many people. It's great. So Dan, introduce yourself and tell us
I
what
can
you're
move on.
about.
Hey, it's great to see everybody this morning. Nice to see that we've got lots of people here to talk about this subject. My name is Dan Leonard. I am a voice actor and the home voiceover studio master. You can find me over at homevoiceoverstudio.com. And I work with the dojo to help everybody learn how to properly record in their home and get you off of listening to people on Facebook saying you need this, and this. And by the way, you don't know how to use it. So I teach you how to use things properly and how to use, mostly how not to use a lot of stuff. So I'm here. If you have any tech questions, I am happy to answer them.
Yes, yes, yes. And Ezra, give us the brief bio. So glad you're
I
here. I know
will.
you're in the middle of working today, so thank you so much for taking the time. So
It is my pleasure, Tish. Thank you for having me here for Ask the Sensei. Hi, everybody. My name is Ezra Weisz. I am a voiceover director and a voiceover actor. I sometimes do voice casting as well for the projects that I work on. I am a performer and a theater artist, and I have segued or just combined working as a voiceover artist and director through those other ways of making a living and staying sane and creative. I'm so excited to see so many people from all over the place, including Hungary. I am Hungarian and Polish. My parents both immigrated to this country. And I just feel everybody's like hellos and positivity here. That's why I love coming to the VO Dojo so much. This is super exciting. And let's just get going with it.
yay, cool. I'm Polish too. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you, Ezra. That's great.
Me too.
Yay. Hey, ja jestem Chicago. That's my hometown. Cool. Oh my gosh, Cynthia's here. All right. Well, let's get started. So what we'll do, and I should have said this earlier, but here we are now. What we'll do is have you put your questions in the chat, and then we will have you speak them into the room, because voiceover. Yeah, so we've got lots of expertise in this room. Ezra, you cover so many bases. If there's questions about dubbing, if there's questions about anime, if there's questions about animation, and you know it from both sides of the glass, so it's super exciting. Do we have questions lined up, Jeffrey?
Not as of yet. If everybody has any questions, maybe about the industry, anything about tech or setup or equipment, those are all fair game. Or if maybe perhaps if you are newer on the scene, or if you're got a bit of a grizzled veteran.
Grizzled.
Well,
I've been voiceover for 400 years.
um, so Tish, I can vamp a little bit here while people formulate some questions.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm working on a project that is a more traditional animation process, although it also fuses some dubbing in it. That's what I'm currently working on. I just finished wrapping, like when I was filming the 21 questions with Tish last week, I was finishing up an 8-episode series. Yes, 8 episodes, live action adult drama for streaming service. And then prior to that, I was doing a 22-episode anime dubbing series. So just like Tish mentioned, if you're interested in anime, or if you're interested, or you have questions, I should say, about live action dubbing, what that's like, or if you're curious and have questions about that more traditional animation style, how does that work? I have very recently, I've dipped my toe in all 3 of those things since December. And that's what my work has been keeping me busy doing. And there's another motion picture, an animated motion picture that is still in development that had contacted me for a very specific and unique request. And of course, if there's any curiosity about that, we can ask some questions about that.
Excellent. And just in general, guys, we have Ezra here and we have Dan here, but anything that you have questions on, like where are you stuck? Where would you're like, I don't know, like anywhere that you're stuck or you're curious, all questions are open here. So if anime isn't on your mind, you can answer. Just we're here to help you. And sometimes you just go like, hey, what about this? Or this is really bugging me, or something like that. And it's a great place to get some answers. And one of the things, this is all part of the dojo process, because our philosophy is, if you know how to ask good questions, you'll always be able to get the answers, right? So this is a place to develop your ability to ask the questions. So I think we've got some now,
Great.
which is
it worked.
Awesome on
We
a question
certainly
and
do.
answer.
We certainly do. Jen
Fantastic.
Silverman, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your first question.
Hi, big fan, by the way. I just wanted to know, because of this whole union versus non-union thing, I just started getting my feet wet into the anime scene, video games. But now, because of everything going crazy, I'm self-represented. So do you need to be in the union for your current projects, or is there a way to just find it on, I figure you wouldn't be on like a pay-to-play website, but is there a way to look into said casting, or do you have a preference of union versus non-union?
Great question, Jen. Thank you so much. And it's really nice to meet you.
Thank you.
It's a great debate, and there's pros. There's just pros to everything. The only con would be, how do you navigate once you've committed to one direction? For instance, there is a ton of non-union work. There will always be a ton of non-union work. It will not elevate your career until you go union. And then once you go union, that's where your career will really elevate. Now, being a non-union voiceover actor and working non-union games and non-union dubs, it is, you just don't have the backing of a union to protect you, to protect your wages, and to protect, your overall work practice. So it's kind of you just going rogue. There are plenty of agencies. You can get an agent, and that agent would still recommend you and represent you to projects that are non-union, and it can just stay like that. And as I'm sure you're very familiar with, Jen, there are some voiceover actors that are non-union that have made a beautiful career for themselves, a very lucrative career for themselves, doing non-union video games and non-union anime, and then maybe some non-union projects, but basically they've made a career with those particular platforms, which a lot of folks that are gamers and fans of anime and they want to get into that have done. But they're not really making their money or their living on those jobs. They're making their living on how they can convert those titles into their own business and going to conventions and selling their merch and doing cameos and doing appearances and all of those things, or building a fan base that's completely all on their own, with different online platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Twitch. So they're finding ways to make money like that. And then they're staying non-union, and they prefer to stay non-union so that they can build those titles that their fan base feeds off of. Now, if you want to elevate your career, then you'll work non-union as long as you're able to, until you can get noticed and have an agent represent you, to then get some union work. And then the union work is your real, like, professional career work. So I always say work non-union until you feel you're getting enough work as a voiceover artist where you can leap away from your muggles job enough so that you can make enough money as a voiceover artist. And if that's happening for you, step into the union, because you're saying, this is going to become my career. This is my focus towards my profession. And I don't post any of my breakdowns on pay-to-play stuff if it's something I'm looking for. I definitely have a huge web of talent that I know that I can send auditions directly to, and different agencies that I can send them to. And if it's something more obscure, or I'm just kind of like taking a wild card shot, I always post on Facebook in different voiceover groups, or just on a Facebook page. Last part of your question, Jen, and then I'll move on, is I have never been professionally represented by an agent for my voiceover work ever. So if you build relationships and your work can start to beget work, but it's not, I still could benefit from having a voiceover agent to represent me. But then I feel like I'll be doing a disservice to myself, because I'm not very often available to take on jobs or do the audition work, because my commitment right now is more of a director. And as a director, there is no voiceover agent to represent me for other projects. That's all pounding the pavement on my own. Thank you for your question, Jen. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I wish you the most amount of luck. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a very, very
too. Thank
thorough.
you.
I love
Yes,
that
that
the
was
only
amazing.
con is going to the cons. That's
Right.
building
Nice
a
one.
career off of.
I also saw some other questions that were kind of popping up that I figured I'd span my answer out to cover some of those other questions.
Excellent.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. Well, which question is next in line? Jeffrey?
So I think this one could be to both Ezra and to Dan. Ruben O'Neill, if you'd like to unmute yourself and come into the room.
First off, may the 4th be with you all.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you.
And definitely too, so here's my question is, I'm trying to get into anime. I'm trying really, really hard. I've been looking out for auditions, all of that beautiful stuff. I do have my home studio completely set up and ready to go. Where would you honestly recommend finding those anime jobs? Like, I've been applying to Rousters, I've been reaching out, but you specifically do have in mind when it comes to getting better shots and better chances?
Ruben, great question. I love that you're in paradise. That is tricky. The anime, there are not many studios that do it. If you haven't already, I would send emails out introducing yourself and attaching a demo that you may already have, and I feel like you do have, to places like Funimation, and to places like Bang Zoom and a place like Studiopolis, a place like Salami Studios. These are locations that primarily work on video games and anime, mainly anime entirely, like solely at Funimation. And they've got it's like a factory. They churn out so much anime there. Bang Zoom diversifies a lot more with original animation, and they create their own content, and they do video games, and of course they do amazing anime productions. And you might want to reach out with a friendly email to them, and not to say that you are, but I am feeling a little bit of enthusiastic desperation from your question asking, because I know that you very much want to get into it, but people will smell that and then they get nervous. So be courteous and be professional. Do not be, obnoxiously persistent. You want to be professionally persistent. You don't want to show your cards too much, my man. And be like, this is what I want. I want to do everything I can to get in it. This is my life. I need it. It's like, we need to know that you're more professional and not just rabid for anime. I think because everybody can sense that even through electronic correspondence. And I was already getting a vibe off of that enthusiasm from you, and I don't want that to reflect poorly on you. I want to look out for you, and I want you to get exactly what you want. And where you are here with Tish in the VO Dojo and making connections like this is exactly the way to do it. I would also start to Google, which I'm sure you have done, but for anyone else who has a similar question, Google casting directors for anime. And you'll be surprised that you find of names. Some of them you probably know quite well, and some you had no idea. And find out those people, maybe send them an email at their professional location and ask, do they teach any workshops that you can attend virtually? There's ways for you to go about to say, I'm very professionally interested without, coming across as being like eagerly, enthusiastically desperate. And I know you're not desperate. It's not in any way an insult, but I feel how badly you want it. And it's just like dating. If somebody wants you so much, sometimes you're like, what's up? Right? So I want you to represent yourself really well, especially your professional body of talent. Because I'm sure once you get in the door, Ruben, I'm sure that enthusiasm, that energy, and that love will get you more and more and more work. But it's gonna create a bit of a resistance at the door. So you just got to get through the door. Okay? You got it.
That was huge, great, fantastic answer, Ezra, and it resonates with a bunch of the foundational principles of the dojo. That at the dojo we talk about voiceover is communication, and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy, and that is exactly what we can tell the enthusiasm, and we can tell the other things. So it's a really powerful thing to talk about, not only in your work, right? How are you delivering a piece of copy, but how are you presenting yourself as you're building your business as well? So beautiful on that. And then the other concept is get to know the people who are doing the things, and then become one of the people who do the things.
Right, which is exactly what this forum is all about. There was another question, I think, they flash by a little bit here for 2 or 3 seconds, but I know about 5 minutes ago, somebody was asking, like, what's the difference between anime, acting, and whatever the other comparison was to it. And what Ruben was demonstrating, even if I'm sure most of us don't really know him other than seeing him in other classes or in forums or at a 10-year anniversary, whatever that room was called, Tish, that you had where people could roam around and talk to people, which was so cool. It was so cool. But with anime, there is such a very direct commitment to the performance based off of the emotion of that character. Some of it is subdued, and that subtlety is played in a very specific way that is different than subtlety of live action. And a lot of it is, I'm expressing completely the color of this emotion, the sorrow, the rage, the happiness. And Ruben was already displaying that he's got that level of energy that can tap into whatever that emotion is that will resonate well for anime as it depicts on the animated character. So that's definitely one of them. And he's going to do great once he gets through that door and makes those connections, because I can feel he's got like a really strong focused energy.
Yeah, cool. I want to ask Dan a question about the technical difference between anime and animation. In terms of, you know, in anime and animation, there's a lot of like different levels and things like that. What would you say is best when you're engineering yourself? When you're engineering yourself at home, I mean, obviously when we go to the studio and we're working with an engineer there, you just have to focus, you just get to focus on doing whatever you need. And if you need to go, then the engineer is taking that. But any thoughts on how to manage that on our own when we're engineering themselves?
Yeah, well, if you're engineering yourself, one of the most important things you need to understand is how to set proper levels. And excuse me, when people need to understand, when you're doing voiceover work, general voiceover work, and you're talking very conversationally, you've got to give a lot of gain to your microphone. But when you get louder, you either have to back off the mic or you've got to turn the level down. It's very important to practice what your levels are for your particular voice. And, you know, and a lot of people will just, you know, set up their interface outside their booth and they'll practice different types of mic technique. If you've got your interface right with you, two things you can do. One, if you're auditioning or doing a script, do the loud parts first, or actually do the soft parts first and do the loud parts second, and then edit them together. So, you know, you can change the level, get the consistent level. And on your interface, actually, one of the things you can do is you can actually mark on here, you know, up top would be for yelling, and then say more like 3 o'clock or 3:30 on the gain dial would be for conversational, and be able to know when things are going to be. I mean, if you get a script, it'll say, you know, angry or whatever it is that's in the script, and you can adjust the levels that way, but know where your specific levels are and understand what it is that the levels are supposed to be. To me, it's always, you know, if you're looking at the meter, always in the green, always in the yellow, with an occasional flash of red. That super duper simplifies it down to the point where you can not overmodulate and sound, you know, right where you're supposed to be on mic. So it's a matter of knowing your mic technique, understanding your levels, and of course, being in a home studio that is not too reflective.
Excellent. That's really incredibly helpful. Doing the sections, the volume sections in different passes, or different thinking of them in different sections.
Right. Or adjusting it as you do it. As you see what's coming next, you can turn the gain up and down.
Yeah.
It's what an engineer is going to do in the studio. So.
And what about, so like when you go off mic, it's just kind of feeling out, right? Because if I shout over here, hey, what's going on? Then I get this part of the room.
Right.
So
well,
what's your advice for, because ideally we want to stay here as much as we can to get that consistency, right?
Right. Well, it's also a matter of knowing the environment in which the character is in. I mean, if you're a ninja or something like that, you're not in your bathroom, or you're not, you want to be in an acoustically dead area. The thing is the louder you talk, the more the acoustical characteristics of the room come into play. So you've got to have a really, really good acoustically treated room in order to do this type of stuff. And you want to be able to maintain probably a fair, the right distance to your microphone. But that takes practice and knowing what it's supposed to sound like and what you're supposed to sound like on that mic. That's not something you're going to get tomorrow morning. It's a matter of practice and getting the hang of what that is. And it's also important that someone listen to your studio who actually knows what it's supposed to sound like, whistle, to say, okay, look, you're a little too loud. There's a little bit too much reflection, that sort of thing. And we can help you with that.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. And notice guys, working pro asks the same questions because I deal with the same thing when I'm doing my auditions and engineering for myself. So yeah. Cool. What we got next, Jeffrey?
We had one from Menji. Menji, if you want to come into the room, this is a pretty good one. I think a lot of people interested in the genre have a question on.
Hi, yes. Hello. So this might seem a little personal, but maybe not. I'm kind of curious how people in the anime industry find, if at all, the benefits of having a VO actor who does actually speak fluent Japanese. Because I've heard different answers on this, all the way from very negative to positive. I'm just kind of curious to get your thoughts on if you find any benefit to that at all.
Assuming then that you do speak fluent Japanese, Menji, or
Hey,
you're not just asking this hypothetically.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm not. No.
What if?
It is never been an issue or a negative to have anybody being able to speak the language of origin for any of the projects. I have dubbed things in Korean and in Mandarin and in Italian and in Spanish, all sorts of languages, and Japanese, of course. And the only problem happens if you try and flex your knowledge. I would keep everything hidden until an opportunity comes up where somebody says something, but you don't want to go in there and flex the fact. If you're in an anime project, for instance, you don't want to all of a sudden start pronouncing names authentically when some intention, a choice may have been made to say, we're going to anglify all of these names. So we're not going to tap the R when we pronounce the R's for some of these names or some of these places, because then all of a sudden you trying to showcase your abilities and your knowledge, it may cause problems because they're like, no, we're not doing that. It's not a problem. Obviously, it's just a moment of communication. You say, hey, are we tapping the R's? Are we going with authentic pronunciations? Because I happen to be fluent in Japanese. And they go, oh, wow, really? That's amazing. No, we're not. We're making this very English. And then you go, great, cool. All right, great, awesome. And then, of course, there are those people, because I've worked with many American-born actors who are fluent in other languages, and sometimes like they catch themselves, especially when it's Spanish, for instance, which is very common in America, and all of a sudden, we start to hear, a very authentic pronunciation of people's names, but the rest of the cast doesn't. So to keep it consistent, we go with just a very for instance, if it's a French show and it is the very famous museum that is in Paris that has the shape of a pyramid with the Mona Lisa inside of it, and anybody who's French can say the Louvre, and everybody who's here there can't. Right. And I could hardly do it myself. So we just go the Louvre, which is how any friggin' American tourist would say, you know where the Louvre is? So that everybody knows what we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's always a benefit of any actor to have experience and knowledge in the world outside of acting that you can bring to your character and to the project. Very often when we're having difficulty with a script and we have to readapt a moment, and an actor can say, well, they're not really actually saying that because I speak Japanese. What they're saying is, or the meaning of that is, and that is incredibly helpful. And that will always reflect so kindly on you as a performer by being that kind of helpful. But I wouldn't flex it, and I wouldn't come out of the gates with it. I would just get the job based on the merit and your ability and your talent. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, once you're in the door, you can sort of express these things, and your ability to speak English and Japanese may be very, very helpful for, press junkets with a project that you're working on, when the producers from Japan come and then you get to speak with them and they're very impressed and honored that you know their language. So it always works well. Just be mindful that you don't flex.
That was an amazing answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a beautiful voice. You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I think that's kind of a good thing to do just in general when you're like know your superpowers, but don't necessarily. Yeah, it's a great way to put it. Yeah. Excellent. What's next,
right.
Jeffrey?
I see a couple questions from Erica. I think one of them may have been answered, but I wanted to give you a chance to pose if you had a new one. I know you put a couple in the chat so far, so go ahead and come on in.
Choose your question, Erica. Where are you?
But there's so
Hello.
there she
Sorry,
is.
I've been kind of sick all morning, so bear with me. I've had a stomach bug all day. But let's see what I'm trying to scroll back to see what I posted.
You asked one about demos, but I don't think it's been asked yet.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, you asked one about demos.
That's right. So for demos, if I were to select a little excerpt from some obscure anime, not something well known, but kind of obscure, would that be bad for a demo sample to do with an engineer and just kind of put together a 1-minute sample as a way to kind of show what I can do?
Great question, Erica. I totally get what you're saying. You're saying, can I use that material or that copy from an obscure anime, re-record it in my performance based off of that script and present that as a demo? First, I would say you don't want to use a minute's worth of a clip or even longer than 15 seconds of a clip.
Okay, so it's a
anything, right?
15-second clip.
Yes,
max.
yeah, and you would use that to then build everything else with presenting a minute-long demo or something.
A minute-long demo of about a few 15-minute clips. Okay.
Yeah, but I would, but
Sorry,
now,
I meant to say 15 seconds. Sorry.
I knew what you meant. But now let me answer your question more directly, or more specifically. I would say if you have an obscure anime and you feel like that character represents your vocal ability and dexterity, well, I would say take that copy and rewrite it so that you're not plagiarizing or stealing anybody's stuff. And
so make it more original.
Make it completely inspired, change the words, change some of the character names. Nobody is going to say, hey, wait, I recognize that obscure slice of anime from that character. They're not going to, Erica, but I don't want you to put your work out there in a way where you're making it easy for yourself and you're not owning your own content. So rewrite it, just take the effort. The script is already there. You're now modifying it. You're making perhaps a parody of it. You're inspired by the type of character that it is, the genre of the character that it is. That's great. No problem there. You're like, I could play that female friend or that female lead or that female, sorcerer. And then change the words a little bit so that it feels like it's yours, so that when you deliver it, you're not already copying something. You're organically creating something that belongs to you, that will shine through your performance in your voice.
Okay. And I was also wondering, to piggyback off that, I come from a theater background. I mean, I bet a lot of people do. So if you do musical theater or stuff like that, do you know if singing is a perk to being in animation?
Perk. It's a huge perk, but you're going to singing, you have to be really careful about adjusting your levels. So I'm going to pass over that question in a second, because sometimes when I hear people do their singing sample and they just sort of leave everything set the way that it was, it really does blow out and crunch and doesn't represent you well because the audio quality is crappy. But yes, at the end, I would always recommend at the end, put a little sample of you singing, or have a character as one of your submissions go into song. So you're like, oh, wow, look at what you're doing with your character versus, and here's me singing. If it can be a character,
work it in, or a 2-for-1 where it shows my character that I created in addition to the vocal sample.
Yes, there's that. And very often when I hear somebody's demo, it usually is tacked on at the end and they say, okay, and here's me singing. That's all great. It's nice to hear that they can sing. It's always a benefit for me to know that they can sing, because many of the shows that I do work on, especially animated shows, they do sometimes surprise us with a musical episode, or the character just starts singing because they're happy in that episode. It's their birthday or whatever. But I would encourage you to have one of your characters in your demo be singing, and not just
I
a
like
song.
that.
But
I like that
yes,
because it's
I
a
like, and
subtle
I
way to
like it too.
include it without saying, oh, and here's me singing.
You're right. And I like it too when I'm listening. I get very impressed when I hear that, because it's just great. It also showcases another one of your talents, your vocal talents, in a way that should be included in a demo that also shows you're singing in character.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
the singing in characters is really the key. One of our other, another of our favorite Fight Club decision makers, Ned Lott, is coming up. Ezra is coming up as a Fight Club director soon, and then Ned Lott is all. But he is one of the fantastic people who specializes in singing in character. He's cast Disney.
There goes Tish.
Yep. The internet connection is a little bit wonky in Hawaii, everybody.
Pixar movies, and he's not working on things. But sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but I think we caught the whole of your question. We caught the
Go
whole
on
of your
without
answer.
me. Go
Alrighty.
on without me.
Next question is for Dan. Next question is for Dan. Joe Rodriguez had a question about how to
I'm breaking
properly...
up.
Yeah. Joe Rodriguez, go ahead and come into the room and ask your question. Are you with us, Joe?
It's too bad. I wanted to.
Oh, doesn't have a mic.
In a while.
I will ask for
Relay
it.
the
Doesn't have a
question.
mic. How do you prepare your room? So we talked about the mic in the interface settings. What's the best way to treat an audio space?
Well, it depends on the space. Every room is different. Every voice is different. It depends on what your average vocal volume is and where you are. If you're in a closet full of clothes, that works better than anything else, and will save you a considerable amount of money if you have a walk-in closet with a lot of clothes in it. But there are a number of ways to treat it. And I think one of the things that people need to understand is there is a difference between sound proofing and sound treatment. They are two totally, completely physical, different things. You cannot have a lot of sound coming in, which means you need to be well isolated, or you need a professional booth once you are earning enough money to afford one of those. As I like to say, you don't buy great equipment to get work, you work to get great equipment. You've got to be able to learn how to improvise in the situation you're in to get everything sounding right. And then you can move on to something that's a little bit more expensive. But you need proper isolation, which means being able to close the door behind you. And then for sound treatment, meaning preventing reflection, you have your choice of acoustical foam. Moving blankets from Harbor Freight are amazing. Believe it or not, if you double them up and if you drape them, or even a heavy drape, go to Goodwill and buy some old heavy drapes and surround yourself with those. Those will do a really good job of creating the right acoustical environment in which to record. So those are the things you need to do, but you have to understand and know what that sound is supposed to sound like, what bad reflection sounds like versus being fairly dead.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
So the next one, this one's been popping up a lot from a lot of people, and it's about demos. I'm going to ask, Terry was the one who posed it first, Terry Briscoe. So go ahead and come in to the room. Good to see you, by the way.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey.
Hi, Tish. Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you, Ezra. I don't remember asking a question about a demo, but I do have a question.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right, so Ezra, I wanted to know from the perspective of the person directing and choosing people, what are the differences between how one should audition for an animated role versus anime?
Okay, so an animated role for the
Like
most
traditional
part.
animation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got you. I
Yeah.
think I got you. So with traditional animation, it's not animated yet. You would be getting cast, or you would be auditioning for something that animators will be animating to. And in the meantime, you're going to be lending your talent and your voice to the script to create the character and bring that character to life. So you want to do the kind of work that actors do when they are developing an original character. You want to figure out, maybe a little bit of the backstory. You want to figure out maybe some people, I mean, Terry, actors have many different techniques. You figure out what works right for you. Some people like to put together a color wheel of this is what this character feels like. It's always this yellow character and this yellow flowers and this, I just feel very yellow about it. I'm going to bring my yellow energy to it and I'm going to, all my reads, or, maybe this one's a little bit more like an Eeyore character, right? Like it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit sad, it's a little bit down, and all my reads and my energy will just be that sort of like bluish purple. And like actors just go about it however they want, or they incorporate their own experience, or if they give you a different variety of characters to choose from, which they do sometimes. So like, here are all the characters. Audition for the ones that you think are best for you. So you pick the ones that you feel drawn to. There's definitely some intuitive work there. The ones that you feel most drawn to. So try for those. Anyway, the point being, the difference is you're creating a character based off of a picture, based off of a drawing, based off of a description. And then they'll give you some key lines to say, slice of life moments in the script, but you don't even get to see the full picture. Okay. Anime, it's already done and drawn. It's already produced and recorded in Japanese most often. So they'll send you a little video test kit, a VTK. They'll give you a little video. They'll give you a screenshot of what the actor looks like. They'll give you 3 different scenes, maybe the heightened moments, the most like emotionally charged moments that they have so far in the series. And you are trying to, and you'll also have the audio. You'll get a clip. So you'll be able to hear what the original actor delivered, and you are trying to parallel your ability with what was done originally so that you honor their performance and that you honor yourself, but you don't drastically change what the anime was like originally. That's rude and disrespectful. That won't get you cast. They're looking for a feeling that's similar to the original, because many people, many fans of anime, listen to the original with subtitles, and then they also will find out what's up with the dub, right? And there's huge arguments about that. I'm sure you're very familiar with. But to be most respectful and to have fans like start to really appreciate who you are as you're being respectful to another voiceover artist's work reflects kindly on you and will also get you some more work, hopefully, in the future. That's the primary difference right there, right? So you're looking off of source material and you're trying to align yourself with that source material versus this is the Wild West. I can create my own character. I can throw them a wild card. You didn't expect this from this character, so here's me doing this. It makes you laugh. It's fine and funny, maybe, right? It's almost in a way very similar to doing a commercial audition, where you don't know what the end result is going to be, but you're just gonna give them your best, and you're going to give them all that Terry juice that you have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that addressed your question.
Absolutely.
Very excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a question about dubbing in the chat. Heather Hill, if you'd like to unmute yourself if you're still with us. And if not, I can more than happy to pose it for you. Heather Hill,
If you
going
can,
once.
I'm in
Oh,
a
there we
place
go.
that I can't really speak, so if you don't mind, that would be great.
Sure
Hello,
thing.
though.
Alrighty. So as with dubbing, Heather has heard that it's best practice to be ahead of the beat or in front of the words. Is this a different of languages or just how that genre in particular goes?
I have never heard that before, Heather. That's an interesting point. I can kind of see where someone might have mentioned that, be it professional or just advice you may have heard along the lines. I'll tell you, as far as my point of view is concerned, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why you would want to hear a character speaking before you see their mouth moving. For dubbing, for lip sync dubbing, you're trying to do the best that you can to let your viewer feel like the dubbed voice, the English voice, is in the body of the actor of origin, whoever's speaking Spanish, Italian, French. So it should start when they start and it should end when they end. And hopefully you catch as many of those lip flaps and those movements to synchronize English with the language of origin. There you go. That's like your dime store definition of what dubbing is. Now, the skill and the talent of the engineer can see that the audio file may have started a little early or a little late. And thanks to Pro Tools, we can move those things around, stretch them slightly, smush them slightly, as long as it doesn't interfere, and try and get it to start right on time and to end right on time. So it looks like the person speaking. I have not heard of starting slightly before for dubbing. Now, that just might be because maybe the adaptation is a little fast and loose and they just want you to get a couple extra flaps in there so that when they kind of condense your file slightly, it covers all of the flaps. I don't really know where that comes from. That's basically like saying, I heard that for track and field, it's good if you start running before the gun goes off slightly. That just kind of disqualifies it. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much. It would probably be good for me to start before the gun goes off. But the person I spoke to has done quite a bit of work and was pretty insistent, but I never heard that. So thank you for clarifying.
Heather, my pleasure. I'll let you know. I know you're at work, or wherever you are that you can't speak. I know that the software that we use in this particular studio that I'm in right now has very much like karaoke or like Dance Dance Revolution or like Guitar Hero. There is a red line that is a mark that stays permanent on a band that moves. And when your dialogue comes across this band, you are encouraged to speak as it hits that red line, because the software is all lined up for it to hit the red line as the character starts speaking. Whenever anybody starts before the red line or after the red line, I have to chime in and say, can you please speak when it hits the red line? If you come in before, it doesn't look like we're having somebody speak. It looks like the dialogue is off from the video. But great question. And sometimes you'll get amazing advice.
Oops, Ezra, you muted yourself.
Somebody dub
He was just
Ezra.
undubbing himself.
Amazing device. Did you want us to W Ezra?
No, my phone was ringing because my wife is my I was going to say, sometimes you get amazing advice that is advice that works for that person solely, and they think you should benefit from it. That person might need to jump in a little bit earlier, and it actually works out that they get timed out well. But who really knows? I just want you, Heather, to go in and do your job right, and that is you talk when either that imaginary fourth beep would be going if you're doing it off of beeps, or when it hits the mark that so many new softwares have, like voice cue and Rhythmoband and things like that.
Yeah. And Heather is a professional opera singer, so her understanding of timing is probably really right on. So
For sure. I do want to say, Tish, before the next question is, I can probably answer one more question for me before I have to tap out. So I love these questions, and as you can feel, perhaps I'm very excited and passionate about sharing what I can to answer your questions. I love that. That's why I love being at the dojo. So if you want to connect with me on social media, my Instagram is my name, Ezra Weisz. My TikTok is my name, Ezra Weisz, and you can find me on Facebook, Ezra Weisz. Very simple, and we can connect like that and continue a relationship further. But let's keep going. I've got time for one more question.
Okay, cool. Which one shall it be?
I think this is one that covers a few and is kind of unique. So Simon, and he asked me to pose it for him, is wondering about if you are working outside of major markets, if you're international, overseas, where are the opportunities for getting into anime specifically? And his was specifically to get the US, but a couple other folks are wondering about working remotely. Are there opportunities to work remotely in like Bang Zoom, Funimation, stuff like that?
Yes, there are folks, talented voiceover artists across the country that do work remotely at other studios. That is starting to wind down a bit. People want people to come back into the studio. They, it's just a much stronger dynamic. Dan can tell you it's best to have an actor in your controlled environment where the engineer can adjust their levels and their gain through the performance and not rely on the actor to also be the engineer, which is a lot of responsibility. Plus, as we've experienced with Tish's connection with her great hotspot, it also becomes very choppy and gets digitized and drops out. So those are frustrations that were tolerable during a time of great distress during a pandemic. And how do we keep working and get deadlines done? But now it's not quite it's not as much of a thing as it used to be. But it's still a possibility. It's still a possibility. I just know it's not like, well, now's our opportunity. We can work with anybody because everything we're doing right now is remote and we don't know for how much longer. So outside of bigger companies, is it possible that you'll be able to do some anime work? It's not very likely it's possible. It's it's going to be a huge I really don't know how you would go about it, honestly, but it will be a rare gem to find. I would put your focus on doing other things to get you work, but the anime studios, the animation studios, if it's not someone that already has a reliable setup and they've already worked with remotely, or it's another talent that's working quite heavily in New York or in Texas, and now is their opportunity to work with them, because it used to be like, if you're not in town, we're not going to work with you. I don't think that, I don't think your energy should be put there. How about that? Your energy is way too important. And I don't think that you should be, spending time using your energy in that way. If it is something that means a lot to you and you feel like your stars are leading you to do that kind of work, then you should be working towards getting into a market where you are able to be present to work. It's just like Dan said, you don't buy the good equipment to get the work. You do the work to build up to the good equipment. That works the same way for these jobs as well.
And also, just to go back to our first question, anime does not pay for living in Los Angeles.
No, you really
anime
do have
itself does not pay for living in Los Angeles. So.
100%. There is a way that you can create a business and make money off of that. And the people that do that, they know that. And that's why they focus their whole career on just getting more anime titles so that they can sell more prints and make more appearances and just work within that niche community that is huge and popular and growing. And it is the future of entertainment as we can see it, because the stories are deep and they're mature and they're exciting and they're creative. That being said, as a voiceover actor, you're not making your living voicing anime.
Right. Yes, excellent. But you can have a life in anime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. A great one. Fun one.
Excellent. Well, that was a great way to finish up. So Dan, thank you for lending your expertise here. How do people stay in touch with you? And what kind of things can you help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go over to homevoiceoverstudio.com, which is my website, and you can contact me there if you'd like to drop off a sample of your audio in my specimen collection cup, which is at the bottom of the page currently. That's a Dropbox. I will give you, for $25, I will give your audio a very thorough analysis as to what your room sounds like, how you use your room, and how you can improve that.
Yeah, and it's remarkable what Dan can hear and ascertain just from hearing a sample, or just knowing what you're listening for. So, yeah, and then VOBS.
Oh, and Voiceover Body Shop. We're on Facebook, and our website is VOBS.tv, where you can watch all 11 years of George Whittam and I talking about home voiceover studios and interviewing great people like Tish and some other super people in our business. So there's all fresh content every other week, or every week, except the next 2 weeks where
except the weeks that we don't do it.
Right. Well, I'm taking a little river cruise in Europe in the next couple of weeks.
Yay. All right. Here's to river cruises. Well, Ezra, thank you so much. Jeffrey, I can hang out for a little bit. So the official, Ezra, thank you so much. Have a fantastic session. Give my love to Sabrina. Thank you so much. And then everybody, Ezra is our Fight Club director. What day, Jeffrey?
That's going to be on the 24th of this month, folks. So get on there, put it on your calendar.
Anime. So if you have enjoyed talking with and getting insights from Ezra, if you're a working pro with demo, rep, and booking, you can apply to be a player, and everyone can spectate. So it's 2.5 hours of Ezra working with people. So really encourage you to come and either join the roster for Fight Club player, or come and be a spectator. All right, guys. I have a few more minutes if there's other questions that anyone wants to hang out for a second, like the little kind of behind the scenes after hours thing. Ezra, have a fantastic session. Dan, thank you so much. If you want to hang out, if you got to roll.
Yeah, I can hang out for once today.
Okay, yay. Okay, so yeah, so if you can hang out, that's great. If you have to roll, that's great. If yeah, so we'll probably stop the recording, but yeah, but if you have other questions that didn't get answered, want to talk about other things, the after party is often a great place to meet people and stuff. Jeffrey, do we want to break into 2 rooms? Is there enough people remaining that we want to break into 2 rooms?
There's actually a big chunk of people, so it might be best just to hang out in one big room.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
See, maybe I'll take off the pin so it can just be more like a Fight Club or workshop setting for us. Here we go.
Cool.
Then everybody can have the Valerie Gu. So
yeah, we'll take like 10-15 minutes maybe.
DIY vocal booth video. So I think Joe has another question for you, Dan. Do you have any like tutorial videos, or is the podcast a good place to look up DIY vocal booths?
Well, the podcast is, Voiceover Body Shop, which is not actually, it's a podcast, but it's also a webcast. We're on camera and we demonstrate things and show you things and you can, see us having a good time talking about it. Do we have videos on it? I've done a few. I know I've done a couple of videos on how to build a DIY booth. But as I said earlier, every room is different. Every voice is different. And therefore, I have to see where it is you plan on recording, because it's not one of those things where you want to just do trial and error stuff. It helps if you have somebody who's done it. I have built probably several thousand home voiceover studios. Every single one of them is different in shape, different in composition, and of course, a different person in it. So I generally, like I said, there are ways to do certain things. There are some very simple ways to do things, but it depends on where you are, how much room you have. Do you have a walk-in closet? Do you have a lot of extra space in an extra bedroom? There's a lot of factors that go into it, and it's not just this one size fits all sort of thing. Every single one has to be custom thought out for the person that's doing it in the place that they're doing it. How's that for an explanation?
That's pretty thorough.
I try to be.
You do a great job at it too. So Tish, I think this is a good one for you actually, and this is the one I referenced earlier and misallocated to Terry. Brigitte, if you'd like to pop in the room and ask on behalf of everybody else about different demos and the necessities, go for it.
Yep, and it's
Hello,
just Bridget. Hi, Tish. Hi,
She's
everybody.
not French. She's not outrageously French.
My parents were getting really really French with their spelling. So my question is about, I've been acting for a while, but I am fairly new to voiceover, as you know, Tish, a few years now. And I'm trying to, slowly build up my demos. And currently I have a commercial demo that I'm very excited about, but I don't yet have the animation and the video game and narration. And sometimes, it can be so many different kinds. And I'm wondering if, in your experience, people can still get in the room with a commercial demo in the beginning before they have perhaps gotten to the making an animation demo or making a video game demo. Do you find that you can still get the audition? How important is it to have those demos right away?
Well, I mean, so in some ways, okay, so it's just a couple ways to approach this. The first is, what does a demo do for you, right? And more importantly, what does a demo do for the person who would like to hire you, right? So what is the most concise way and direct way and pro way that no one has to interpolate anything? Oh, I would like to hire somebody for animation. Excellent. I will look at their body of work in animation and get a sense of what they're bringing, right? So that's always, with any demo, that is always the most important. How am I serving my client, right? How do I become part of their workflow and make it easier for the people who are hiring us, right? And notice I'm careful about saying they and them, because if you choose those words for yourself, that's great. But in terms of how we like to approach our mindset about anything of working with anybody, it's not they. What do they want? What do they? It's we. How can I become part of the we that's creating this process? So those are a little bit of sidetracks. Okay, the next layer is animation is a specific realm, right? So one way to get access to animation auditions is to have your commercial demo open doors to have you build a relationship with representation that then can get you the auditions that you don't necessarily need an animation demo per se, right? So that's one thought process. The next thought process is, where does your heart lie and where are your wishes, right? Because animation is one of those things that is more specific, more competitive, maybe not as many opportunity as narration or commercials, right? It's a very specific thing. So how important is it to you? I remember meeting Lila Berzins when she was, just arriving in LA, and she's like, I'm here to do animation. That's what I'm here to do. And, Kari Wahlgren, when she was Kari McGee and she just moved from New York, she's like, I'm here to do animation. God bless them. They have become, really powerful parts of the animation legacy, right? So I think that that's where anybody makes their next addition to their habit trail. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember like those little things. You get a hamster, but then you can put the little tubes on and add other rooms. So wherever you're building your next little section of your voiceover mansion, that's up to you, right? And I think kind of like what Dan was saying, we don't get good equipment to get work. As you're going along, build your business on the money that you make from your voiceover. So don't go spend $2,500 on an animation demo if you don't, which can serve you. And once again, if it's your yearning burning, then yeah, then if that's what your purpose in life is, then get really, really, really good and then spend money on your animation demo, right? Be able to play at the levels that you'd like to play, because everybody has a kind of animation demo, and it has a witch, and it has a little kid, and it has a, everyone has kind of that. What is it that's going to make your animation demo go like, boom, get me that Bridget girl, right? So those are sort of some things to start thinking about it. Now, in terms of narration demos, like Sensei Kat Campion books off of her commercial demo all the time. If you have something on your commercial demo that implies like, that is the tone we want for our narration demo. Jason Vanderbeek, one of our OG Mystery to Mastery people, has one spot on his commercial demo that just starts moving into the realm of promo, and he was able to leverage that to start booking promo work. So in your commercial demo, if there's implications of it, right? However, I would not put like, hi, I'm 6 years old and I'm in the commercial, right? You wouldn't want that in your commercial demo because that doesn't serve, right? So is this like, so there's no, for any of this, guys, it's just like Dan said about the studio. There's no one size fits all. There's no like, oh, this is the path. Come follow these steps and everyone will guaranteed be there. Everyone's going to have their own journey, right? There's through lines of, the spirit and the focus and the consistency that is, and the love of the work. That is, everybody who's got a sustained successful voiceover career has those things in some way, shape, or form. But how it happens and which order you do things, you got to kind of feel it out, do what's best for you. And even if you have unlimited resources, use them wisely. Even if you have like $1 billion and you're getting into voiceover, use them wisely. When are you ready to make a demo? Why are you making a demo? What are you going to do with it? Right? Does that make sense?
Thank you so much, Tish. That's really helpful. And yes, sometimes you get so excited about making something, but like you said, all in good time, I suppose.
Well, and or it might be, it might be right now, and I can't say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank
you. Like kind of, I know a little bit about this too, is that having that foundation of another genre under your belt will just open more doors for you. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of places that offer representation or agencies, agents, are going to be drawn to something like a commercial demo because from a business perspective, that's a much more lucrative endeavor and more opportunities are available from voiceover for those other genres like commercial and narration. So it really does serve you and can be your springboard from, great, I can do commercial. Oh, you know what else I could do? I'm really good at animation, and give me all the auditions for those.
I might add also that the more demos you have, the better. if of course those demos are good. You should have a commercial demo. I mean, everybody should have one of those because that is the gravy work in our business, is doing commercials. But we all know that commercials are just a tiny, tiny, tiny little slice of what it is available out there to actually make a living doing this. So you have to have a good narration demo, dealing with, different subject matter for documentaries or corporate narration. And of course, a really good e-learning demo or a medical demo, because that's where the majority of the work is right now. Yes, we want to audition for those commercial jobs, and yeah, we want them, and yeah, it's got to be in your gallbladder to want to get that stuff. And if it is, then I suggest you have to have a good commercial demo to do that. But if that's all you have, then you are perhaps leaving out opportunities and leaving money on the table for a lot of other work that is completely available out there, and that as an entrepreneurial business, of being able to be versatile, you've got to have those types of demos as well. And you produce those things yourself if you know how, but generally it helps if you have somebody who knows how to help you record those things and produce them for you, is important. However, narration demos and e-learning demos don't require a lot of production. It just requires good audio and a good sense of editing to keep things brief, but grabbing people by the gorgle saying, hey, this person's really good at this. So if you're auditioning or you're looking for that type of work, here's my narration demo. And you should have a bunch of these on your website.
And I think then that creates a snowball effect, right?
Exactly.
So if your commercial demo is sort of an expression of like is something that shows the facets of you, right? You want the authentic facets of yourself expressed in your commercial demo for that realm of work. Then depending on, so, and again, it depends on, because if my voice sounds like this all the time, I'm going to get less narration work, right? Although I could go segueing into e-learning, and I specialize in doing little kids' voices for e-learning, right? So, but you're not going to be, the voice of the cardiac, the cardiac, the new cardiovascular technology, right? So know where your voice lies. And then if making an e-learning demo is easier and something that if you have a good setup and are ready to roll, you can do that either by yourself or with a little guidance. It's less expensive because you don't have to do sound effects and like all the highly produced things of an animation demo to make it sound like an actual thing on the air in animation. Then start getting work in that. I call those like your pot of lentils, right? If you have no money, you can go buy a bag of lentils, a can of tomatoes, and an onion, and put them and have them on your stove all the time, and you're going to have good protein. You're going to be nourished for not very much money. And so you always have those things that are cooking on the stove. Then you start making money in that realm, and then you use that money to invest in the other things, which, you could put $1 billion into your animation career and have it go nowhere. And frankly, unless once you start getting those, like, I'm a consistent player, or I'm Dan Castellaneta, I'm on The Simpsons, or I'm on Family Guy. Again, it's kind of like the anime. Anime pays very little. If you were speaking crassly, it pays dick. But animation, if you're doing union animation jobs, it's good. But you're not doing, so I don't know, I'm going on and on into details, but yeah. Well, that was all the time we had on one question. Thank you. How you doing on time, Dan? You got a roll? No? Okay. Well,
Okay.
let's do one or two more questions.
I got a couple more.
And we'll try and make them shorter answer.
These are
I
nice
would
and
say
short.
everything I ever known in my entire life.
I did enjoy
Yes.
the cooking lesson, though. That was good.
Yeah. There's always food with the voiceover anything. There's always food involved. So, Dan, can I ask you a couple of just gear questions?
Sure.
Menji, I'm gonna circle back to yours. What do you think of the Motu M2 for
What
your
do I think of
interface?
it? The
Yeah.
interfaces are interfaces. Uh, the difference between them, aside from the amazing cost and difference, is the Motu is a very good interface. People need to understand what it is that their digital interface does. It has two distinct functions. One is it is a preamplifier. It takes the low volume signal that your microphone produces and amplifies it so it can be, loud enough to modulate properly. The other thing it does is it takes the analog amplified signal and turns it into the ones and zeros that your computer understands and can create that graphic representation of what your audio looks like as a waveform or as a spectrograph. So there's a graphical representation of your audio. The difference between, say, a Motu or a Focusrite 2i2 it has more to do with the preamp than anything else, because as I said, ones and zeros are ones and zeros, and the digital analog to digital conversion is basically the same with all of those. A Motu is great. Their interfaces, the physical interfaces are a little bit different on each, but you don't have to spend a fortune on an interface because there isn't an interface out there that's going to change the way you perform copy. And I don't get this thing about I've got to get the most expensive and the best, especially if you're recording in a less than optimum space. Anything that's going to make things more sensitive or record more accurately is going to reveal all of the acoustical flaws in the area in which you're recording. So you don't go hog wild on that. So I would say, is a Motu good? Yeah, they're okay. I mean, I know a couple of people that use them and love them. They also are vocalists. They also are singers. So they're a little bit more savvy at how they use them. So if you're a singer or a musician or something like that, yeah, that might be pretty good. The Motu M2 is a great little interface, but there are so many on the market and you do not need to spend a fortune to get yourself sounding as good as I do. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that a particularly expensive model? Is that
It's more expensive than other ones. The Focusrites, like a Focusrite 2i2, like this guy is, $150, and the Solo is like 120, and they have the same preamp in them, and they do the same type of digital conversion. The thing is that yeah, exactly. No, that's why Focusrite is so good at this and why they sell so many of them. There was a little bit of question about quality control a couple of years ago, but they've cleaned that up. A lot of the stuff that's coming out of China, as long as we can still get stuff from China, which is where everything comes from, they've really upped their game in the quality of their stuff. So anything that is produced in China, look, Apple computers are made in Shenzhen. So that the good electronics are coming from there. There used to be a lot of crap knockoff stuff that came out of there, and but now it's a lot better. But you do not want to spend on a microphone nothing less than $150. $150 to $200 is good for a good studio condenser microphone of any make. And for an interface, you don't spend under $100. And a lot of people like these Behringer things, and you get the sound of that far off waterfall,
which is good when you're in Maui, but
right, exactly. Well, yeah, but got a lot of palm trees, getting rid of that sound.
You know what? There is like chickens and stuff like that here. Is that stuff? One thing we totally forgot to talk about, Jeffrey, is if you're in LA, is it this weekend, the Apogee studio tour?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we totally forgot to mention that. If you're in LA, we have a working relationship with Apogee Studios, and we're going to do an event on Saturday. So if you're interested in more information, email Jeffrey and he can get you that information.
I've got an Apogee mic that I take on the road.
The old school Apogee mic.
Still works great. It actually sounds like a 416. Yeah. It's just not very forgiving for plosives and stuff. You have to know the technique for using it. But their new hype mic, really nice.
That's what I have here in my little little rocket ship closet here. Yeah, it's good.
Yep, I've got one too, and I let one of our other instructors, Sensei Can't Campion, use it when we went to VO Atlanta recently, and she booked a $1,000 gig off of 5 minutes in the closet with it in Hungary, and it led to more work for her. So, highly recommend.
Good. It's good. Yeah. Well, let's do one more questions. And guys, we do this every Wednesday, the first Wednesday, not every Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month. We're crazy, not that crazy. We Ask the Sensei is the first Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. PT. Also, we have a new series called Get to Know VO on the third Wednesday, focusing on a different subject matter, get you thinking, introducing, and going in depth on some certain subjects. So if you want to put those in your calendars, so when you cannot come, and sign up for them, because we always send the replay too, so you can listen to them later as podcasts. Yeah, well, let's do one more question, and then I'm going to go get breakfast.
Alrighty. So I know Frankie put this in the chat earlier. How, just roughly, like, it's such a small, simple question, but like, how does one get their foot in the door? If they have their remote, if you've been really trying for a while and you haven't seen a lot of progress, maybe just like what are some options available for like a next step? Like what's the best way to move forward if you've been hacking at this ice, but you haven't been able to get through, you know?
Can I take the lead on that one too?
Please
Yeah,
do, Dan.
absolutely.
Okay. If you're starting out, again, as I said earlier, when we, during the webinar, this is an entrepreneurial business. This is not show business. You have to understand that a big part of your job, aside from auditioning, is marketing. That people need to know you're there, and you've got to have the ability to get in touch with these people and say, hey, I'm here, and here's my demo. Because just auditioning off the pay-to-plays and auditioning and auditioning and auditioning is, one, going to wear your voice out. Two, it's going to wear your brain out, because this business is, you got it. I used to sell life insurance. If you want to get an idea of what it's like, it's rejection. Most of the time we're sending these auditions out there and they just go spiral out into the ether, and they like, well, what did I do wrong, or something along those lines. You have to create, and Ezra said this really well, you have to create relationships with people. You have got to go out there and you have got to get on the phone, or now on email or whatever, and find your contacts and tell them, this is what I do. Can I help you? It's amazing. I have a couple of friends who are just magnificent at cold calls. When I was selling life insurance, I hated cold calling. There's several phones that are still embedded in several walls in a couple of offices from when I'm like, but selling life insurance, as much as I hated it, was a great training for when I started doing voiceover online about 10 years later. You got to have a rhino skin, as we used to say. You've got to be able to keep pushing and not being over exuberant, but being professional. When you answer the phone, hello, that sort of thing. Always sound your best, especially if you don't know who's calling on the other end. And when you're calling somebody, always speak professionally and slowly, and maybe have a script or memorize what it is you want to say to doing this. Do a search for where are the video production companies where you are, where are they anywhere in the world, and work your way up from there. Once you land one job, you go all out to make that person a client, make them keep coming back to the well. I mean, I built my business on that. A lot of long format narration, a lot of international work in India and in Finland. I remember I was the voice for a Peloton thing before they started having the big online thing. We're like, you can go faster. It's like, okay, can you just like be really enthusiastic and say, you're doing great. All right. It's just another more, that was a while ago and things have changed, but I got a lot of work off the pay to plays initially, but there were a lot less people back then. It's now a very crowded market, and you have to be a very good entrepreneur. Yes, work your craft, study with Tish, get your your skills down as a voice actor, but the business skills, the people I know who are making a living at this are entrepreneurs. They are people that work their business. I'm now president of World Voices Organization, which is the industry association of freelance voice talent. And one of the things we're trying to emphasize to people is this is a business. So learn the business skills and the organizational skills you need in order to succeed at any business. You have something to offer, your skill as a voice actor, but what good is it if nobody knows you're doing it? So that's why it's important to learn those entrepreneurial skills and join worldvoices.org, world.voices.org.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. That it's really, 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 really true. The other, there's a couple of layers too. I'm not sure who asked the question, but a couple of layers too. What are you doing? Have you gotten do you have training, or are you going on your own? Right. Because don't get me wrong, trusting your instincts and going for it, awesome. And then, if it's not working, how are you getting supported? How are you getting input? How are you getting guidance as to what's happening in the business right now? Because you might have an idea, think you're doing great, and it's not doing anything. Just like in relationships, if someone's just not into you, what do you do with that, right? So I don't encourage anybody to go like, oh, voiceover is just not that into me. I'd say, like, are you brushing your teeth? What clothes are you wearing? what people are you hanging out with? So like, there's probably other things. Or if that one's not into you, then who is into you? Because you've got something to bring, right? So there's a little bit of that emotional thing. If something's not working, how do you keep on experimenting? Because if you keep on doing the same thing in the same way and you keep on getting the same results, then you're just going to grind yourself to the bone, hate this, and end up feeling disappointed and like, I did that, right? Which is not. This is why mindset is the first mindset is the first thing that we do at the dojo. It is the foundation of everything that we do. And because I've been doing this for 30 plus years, a lot of my clients are relationships that I've had, campaigns for literally decades, because I have relationships with those people, and then they go to another agency and I get another campaign. So it works on all levels. Where was I going with this? Sorry, I just went into a little eddy of my thoughts. So you have to be adapting. You have to, I'm just saying, everybody has to adapt. So I've had this great career a long time. Have there been times where everything fell out and nothing was working? And I had to go like, holy shit, what the hell is going on here? And did it feel like, yes. And so then you have to go like, wait a minute, hold on, what I'm doing. One hand here. All right, let's stop the free fall. What do we do? Climb back up the well, because it's so easy to get your brain into this. And being an entrepreneur, you guys, is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It requires every single day you have to be. And it's also creative work too. I think that's something that happens. People who are creatives go like, oh, I don't like the business part. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Shift your mindset to that the business part is equally, if not more, creative than the creative part. And then you're always creating. If you are interested, if you are feeling stuck and you're a working pro, that you have, like you feel like you've done all the stuff, we twice a year, we do a thing called the Nth Degree Intensive, which is for working pros that are like, want to take it to the next level. And we focus on building your entrepreneurial mindset. We focus on what are the ways that you can be making money. We have a panel of industry professionals, representatives, managers, and agents that come on the last day, listen to everyone's demo, give you individual feedback, and we then each of the managers or agents chooses one person to do an interview with. And so you get to, we, like everything at the dojo, we unfold, let's make everything transparent so you can see what happens. So whoever, I'm not sure whose question this was, but if that's something that sounds interesting, it's coming up on the weekend of May 13th, 14th, and 15th. And I think we have a few spots left. Totally worthwhile. But if it's not working, do something different. Ask for help if it's not working. Yeah. So
Tish,
with that, yeah.
I have to hop off, so I'm making you host.
So I'm gonna go. We've got other things to do. There's always more questions. These have been great questions. Love that you're all here. If you have more questions or want to talk to any of us about anything, don't hesitate to email. Hop on a voiceover once-over call with Jeffrey. He can hear more about where you're at and where you'd like to be, and we can figure out if there's something else that we can be doing. Bridget, if you're out of the writer's room, come back, sister. Call me.
Talk to you soon, for sure.
Yeah. Great stuff, guys. Dan, thank you as always. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month here. Get to know VO is coming up in a couple weeks. Fight clubs, always something going on here. So great stuff, guys. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.